So the Nintendo Switch 2 just got some really good news, because if you were trying to track down brand new consoles back in 2020 when the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S launched, you probably remember how much of a nightmare that was, literally fighting to check out with any retailer online and hope your cart doesn't crash, hope the transaction actually goes through, or that you don't get an email afterwards saying that your order's been canceled, because the scalpers are actually buying up these consoles and bots are buying them. And you then turn around and look on eBay and you see that console that you were trying to buy for a $500 price tag quickly going for $1,000 plus, or $850, $900 range online, due to the fact that's of course an easy way people can make money, an unfortunate way that they do it, but it does happen. Scalping is a very real issue and thing, and we have some brand new comments from President Shintaro Furukawa at Nintendo stating what their plan is to avoid this issue. And we have seen some comments before kind of in the same line and tone, suggesting that supplying the components that they need for the Switch 2s, or whatever it's going to be called, and ramping up production and having enough to kind of meet market demand should be their strategy. We've heard all of that before, but as we are now inching closer to an official reveal for this console, as we know it's going to be happening no later than March of 2025, and likely this fall leading into the holiday season, it is reassuring to hear the confidence from Mr. Furukawa at this point in the year, July of 2024, that we shouldn't have that scalping situation to worry about this time around with Nintendo's next-gen system launch. So we'll get on the same page with exactly what was said. Before we do, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your bell notification to join Sunbro Nation if you're new here. And I want to first kick off this conversation by hopping over to VGC, where they do have a detailed transcribed version of exactly what was said from Mr. Furukawa. Nintendo says it wants to avoid Switch 2 scalping by making enough to meet demand. President Shintaro Furukawa says he doesn't think component shortages will be an issue. In a Q&A during a general meeting of the shareholders, the company's execs were asked what measures they were taking to stop reselling of its next console, given that last year's meeting they said they were planning to do so. Nintendo President Shintaro Furukawa replied that the company's main plan for combating scalping is to make sure players don't have to turn to resellers because they can just buy a console at retail. Furukawa said that as a countermeasure against resale, Nintendo believes that the most important thing to do is produce sufficient numbers to meet customer demand. In addition, the president said Nintendo is considering whether it can take some other measures taking into account the circumstances in each region. Furukawa also noted that the semiconductor shortage that affected numerous companies' ability to produce new hardware in recent years is no longer an issue. Last year and the year before, we were unable to produce sufficient quantities of Nintendo Switch hardware due to a shortage of semiconductor components, but this situation has now been resolved, he explained. At present, we do not believe that a shortage of components will have a significant impact on the production of the successor model. Nintendo confirmed in May that it will announce its next console this fiscal year, meaning the Switch's successor will be revealed by the end of March 2025 at the latest. So again, a similar talk track to what we've seen Nintendo communicate around this before, but considering how close we are to the potential reveal and ultimately the launch of the successor console, and Nintendo's still kind of holding the same stance that they just believe they're going to be able to meet the market demand right out of the gate, that's a reassuring statement. Now, it doesn't mean we're not going to have some level of shortages once this thing does launch, because the reality is that if you have a, you maybe live in a smaller town, you go into your local retailer and you want to pick one up off of a store shelf, well, there's going to be situations where you just can't find it locally. But the idea is if there's enough stock to go around online and the bot situation kind of gets under control, maybe there's some better measures in place now than there once was to stop people from buying up hundreds of consoles at a time. If things like that are in place and we can stop that whole watch the restocks to drop situation, and maybe it's less hectic than some of the last console launches, that will be a big win, because as I mentioned, you'd never want to pay anything more than retail for a console. It's likely, I'm thinking, for Nintendo Switch 2 gonna be priced at a $399 price point. I definitely think that's likely where Nintendo will launch it at. It still comes in cheaper than the premium models of PlayStation and Xbox for their current gen consoles, and it has that portable play factor intact, but it's no doubt it's not going to be $350 or less. It's not going to be the price of an OLED model or a base model Switch. Like, we're going to go up in price, I'm pretty sure. And what you don't want to have to worry about is a regular price increase and then a second-hand resale market price increase. So the other thing about Nintendo is they're typically not sourcing the newest chips out there on the market. We know they have a strong relationship with Nvidia right now, and they will be using them once again for this successor model to the Switch that we are expecting to be unveiled at any time during this year or as late as March of next year. I'm really team fall this year. I think we are going to get some kind of first look trailer and official communication from Nintendo, just due to how early they announced that they were going to be talking about that console. Like this is literally communicated to us in May from Shintaro Furukawa, stating that they're going to be revealing the successor model this fiscal year. I don't think they wait till the tail end of that fiscal year. So pre-orders will go up probably shortly after they officially announce the console, and it'll be interesting to see if pre-order stock really is right there day one to meet all of the consumer demand, and people who want to get it day one all are able to place a pre-order, or if those pre-orders sell out and then you're going to have to be watching for the day one stock to actually drop, or potentially line up at your local retailer early in the morning when they open on launch day. Like, we'll have to see how everything ultimately unfolds, but it is very nice that we are not dealing with the component shortages of 2020 and kind of a couple years past then. It's really only as of, I'd say, late 2023 really cleared up. So it does indeed seem like a good time for Nintendo to be talking about new hardware and ultimately bringing it to market. And let's say they do reveal it in fall and then plan for a March launch, literally do a copy and paste repeat of what they did with the original Switch. Well, at that point, we're really going to have to see what kind of software lineup Nintendo builds out for this thing at launch, because I think that will largely determine how many people are going to run out there and grab an upgrade for day one, or how many people feel like they can maybe wait until the holiday season of 2025, where I definitely think the successor model will indeed see a huge surge in sales once again. Looking at like the first year sales of the Nintendo Switch, I believe it moved over 13.5 million roughly units in its first fiscal year. So probably something similar to that for the Switch 2. Again, it really will come down to what the software lineup looks like, how much third-party support is there day one, which I do think will be a lot, since it's way more capable of a console and should be on par with like what the PS4 Pro / Series S kind of is right now. And that should in theory open the floodgates for a ton of big third-party games. Really hoping Elden Ring gets a day one announcement, maybe as like a launch game even for the Switch 2 from a third-party perspective. And of course, at some point we'll learn about the big 3D Mario that's likely a launch game for the system, maybe a new Mario Kart in the first fiscal year of Nintendo Switch 2 being out on the market. And imagine what a new Mario Kart will do, like just that 61 million plus user base that's on the current Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. Imagine how many percentage of those players are going to want to have the new experience when it's available. So Nintendo can pull a lot of levers from a software perspective to get people to upgrade to this thing. I'm fully expecting backwards compatibility to be intact, which will be a nice big selling feature as well. And it's going to be interesting to see if this thing has the same hype level as the Switch did when it launched. And I'm sure there's going to be certain situations where it is still hard to find, but hopefully not a PS5 Series X situation, or even like the Nintendo Wii back in the day, where it was literally a couple years before you could just find that thing on retail shelves, and you were having to call all the local retailers to find out when they might be getting their restock and try to go catch them right on the opening of a restock morning. So we are inching closer and closer to some kind of official announcement and reveal from Nintendo for their Switch successor, and that is a very exciting prospect to me. I want to hear from you guys at this point in the video around what you think Nintendo will do to indeed stop the scalping situation. Do you think they're just going to be able to purely produce enough consoles to meet demand out of the gate, and that's how they handle this? Do you think we might see situations where Nintendo somehow limits one console to one like Nintendo account purchase? It's hard to do that with third-party retailers, but you could definitely do that through the Nintendo store. We saw Sony try something similar with the PS5, and it's kind of a hassle to shop on their own website and not just like a Best Buy or Amazon or Walmart or whatnot. But I could see Nintendo doing something like that. And bonus question, what do you think the launch lineup's going to look like for Switch 2? Do you think there's a solid chance we're seeing that 3D Mario as the launch game, maybe a new Mario Kart? And when do you think we'll get the first Smash Bros installment on the next gen console? And what are some big games that we're not maybe thinking of that could definitely help move a bunch of Switch 2 units day one? So thanks so much for watching the video today, everyone. Make sure you share all your thoughts and feelings in the comments down below before you leave, regardless if we agree or disagree. Also, make sure you like, subscribe, turn your notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.